everyone, my name is Alyssa and today we're going to learn how to code. We're going to be using a free programming language called Scratch in order to code our own Mars Rover game. So what is coding? Coding, sometimes called computer programming, is the process of using a programming language to communicate with computers. Coding is what makes it possible for us to create computer software, apps, and websites. The app you're using to view this video, that's made possible with coding. Today, we're going to make a Mars Rover game using Scratch. You can download the Scratch app or use Scratch on a web browser. Just go to scratch.mit.edu to create your free Scratch account and you're ready to go. So let's get started. So once you're on the Scratch website and logged into your account, we're just going to simply click Create. This will open up the Scratch programming. And the first thing that we can do is upload our own backdrop. Now we have a couple of already downloaded backgrounds. These are actual satellite images from Mars. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pick one of these. Let's pick this one, the East Elysium Mons. I'll open that. As you can see, now we have this is kind of like our preview page, and I have the background. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is upload a sprite, and we also have a sprite ready to upload. This is a little Mars Rover sprite. The downloads for both the backgrounds and the sprite we're gonna put in the description of this video. So this cat is sort of just there just to start with, but I'm gonna go ahead and delete that, and we're gonna work on coding this rover. So now we want to code the sprite to move, and there's two different ways that we can do that. One is we're going to go to Event. We're going to select this when space key is pressed, okay, and we're going to do up arrow. So when the up arrow is pressed, what do we want the rover to do? We want it to move up, right? So if we go to motion, then you can see we have something called move steps. If I add that and I click the arrow button, it's going to move up, okay. So let's go ahead and duplicate this, and then we're going to do down. So now when down arrow is key press, oh, you see it still moves up, and that's because we didn't give it a direction to the code. Everything that we want the rover to do, we have to code into it. So we'll have to do point in direction for both of these. And you see, so for up arrow, we want the degree for it to point would be 0. And then for down arrow, we want it to be 180 degrees pointing down. So now you can see when I click down, it goes down, and when I click up, it goes up. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for left and right. So for right, I want it to go 90 degrees, and for left, we want it to go minus 90 degrees. So now I have control of the rover this way. There is another way to control the rover, and I'm going to show you that, but first I'm going to delete these. And this is something we're going to be kind of playing with, how to use the run program button, okay? So if we go back to events and we look at this when green flag is clicked, anytime, this is sort of like the start of the game, we can kind of code into there. So every time we want the game to start, we would click the green flag, and then we can control the rover. So let's go back to motions. If I just drag this here and I click, you can see it will just move once, but I don't want to use this to control the rover. We want to use an if-then control. So let's drag that over there, and I'm going to use the if-then, and I want to fill in that if. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to sensing, and then we can look at what we have here, and you can see there's one that says key pressed, right? So if the key is pressed, I'll drag that there. Let's say I want it to go up. If the up arrow key is pressed, then we'll move 10 steps. Okay, so if key is pressed, then move 10 steps. So now I click Run Program, and oh, I'm clicking on the arrow button, it's not working. And the reason why is because when you click the button, it will read what's happening, and because at that moment when I click the button, the up arrow was not pressed, then nothing happens and it only checks it once. So we want it to check it forever. So I'm going to go back to control, and you see we have a forever. If we want this part of the code to be within forever, so I'm going to just drag that within forever, and then now I have a sequence of code. So if I click go now, you can see this is highlighted. That means it's active, and it's active forever or until we stop the program. Okay, so now I should be able to control going up, and if I have the program stopped, it won't move. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this for the other directions. I'm going to go down. Oh, and if you remember, we have to have it face the right direction. So I'm going to add this into as well. So we have the point, and here we want it to go down. Okay. So I'll see you back when I have the other codes all ready. Okay, so I have my directional code all set up. I have up, down, right, and left, and I don't have the green flag clicked, so nothing's highlighted. So if I press the key, it doesn't move. But if I press the flag, it gets highlighted, so that's how you know the program's running. And now I can control the rover. So now that we've figured out how to control the rover, why don't we figure out exactly what kind of game we want? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a couple of targets that I want the rover to move to. Okay, so I'm going to go to, let's go ahead and turn the program off first. Let's see, let's pick, how about a crystal? So if we click the crystal, you can see we have a new sprite, and we have it here as well. So I can drag the crystal to go to different areas. Let's put him right there for now. You can adjust the size, so if I want to make it small, or if I want to make it a little bit bigger, you know. So I'm going to maybe keep it at 100 for now, and you can kind of click where you want it to be. So this is where this crystal is going to start, and what I want to happen is if I move my rover to the crystal, I want the rover to be able to interact with the crystal. Right now, it doesn't have any codes attached to it, so anytime I touch the crystal, nothing happens, okay? And so what I want it to do is that when I go over the crystal with my rover, I want to pretend like the rover is picking up the crystal, so I want the crystal to disappear. So let's go to event. So we want the flag, we want when the program is clicked, we want it to run the code, and then let's see, we also want just like before, if you remember, we want the script to run forever or until the program is ended, and then we want the if then. Okay, so if the rover is, or if the crystal is being touched by the rover, okay, sensing, there we go. If the crystal is being touched, this is the rover title. So if the crystal is being touched by the rover, then we want the crystal, we'll go to looks, we want it to hide. This is going to make it disappear. Okay, so let's run the program and let's see if it worked. Oh, yep, see it disappeared. And then I'm going to stop the program. But as you can see, the crystal disappeared, and it's technically still there, it's just hidden. So I want to make it appear whenever we hit the green flag, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add show whenever the green flag is clicked, right? So there it pops back up again, okay? And when I go over it, it disappears, and then if I restart the program, it will reappear. All right. So what we can do is we can have multiple target sprites. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this, and then I can move these around, and each of these have the same code, so that if we run the program and I go over each little target, it disappears. Okay, so it's like it's collecting. So I think the next thing I want to do is add a countdown timer. So usually things that we send to space have sort of a lifespan, right? It can't be out there, it can't be active out there forever for whatever reason. But so we're going to go ahead and make this game a little more challenging by adding a timer. Okay, so let's go back to events, and we're going to click we want it to be on the rover. We got to remember that. So we're going to code the rover, and I'm going to drag and drop the little green flag, so that whenever we start this, it will go ahead and run the program. Let's go to variables, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable. So I'm going to call this timer, and this is going to be for all the sprites. So all the sprites will be with the timer. So as you see up in the left hand corner here, I have a timer, and now we want it to count down from a certain number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to events. I'm going to drag the program start flag, and then we want to create a variable, right? Or we want to affect the timer variable, right? So let's go ahead and use set timer. You can, if you have different variables, then you can pick which one you want. So I'm going to use timer, and I want it to set to, let's do 15 for now. We only have 3 targets. You can change this later. And what I'm going to do is then I want it to count down. So let's go to control, and we want it to count down forever, right? Well, not forever, we want it to stop eventually, but we'll start off with this, and then we'll go to let's go to control again. We want it to wait 1 second before it starts counting down. Okay, so I'll go to variables, and then I'll do change variable. I'm going to change it to timer, and then if you can see, if I run program now, it's going up. So when I click run program, it's going to go up, but we don't want it to go up, we want it to go down. So what you have to do is you put -1 or -1, and it's going to add a -1 from 15. So here you see it's going down, and when it reaches 0, let's see what happens. So as you can see, it's still going, and what we want to do is have it stop at 0. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is going to go back to events when this is clicked, and then we're going to do an if then, right? Oh, we want to do it forever too, so let's put we want to do it forever, so we want to put the if then in the forever and attach it. And so now we want it to sense, right? We want to do if blank is happening, then blank will happen. So we wanted to say if timer reaches 0, then we want the timer to stop. So let's go ahead and do sensing. Okay, and let's see, or actually I think it's operator, sorry. So we're going to go to operator. Here we have a bunch of different number variables, and what we can use is this one here, the equal sign. So I'm going to drag that there, and what I want it to say is if timer equals 0. So I'll go to variables, and I can drag my timer into there, and I'll go ahead and put 0 there. If timer equals 0, then we want it to stop. So let's go to control. I think the stop is right here. Stop. There we go. So let's move this to 5 so we don't have to wait so long, and I'm going to go ahead and run the program. So it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At 0, and then it stopped. And you see the program stopped as well, because what happens, I did select all, so that means that it ended the program, every script that we have running. So what we can also do is have the game say something whenever we get to 0. So let's go ahead and go to look, and we can have it say, let's go ahead and have it say game over, right? And let's run the program and see if it works. So at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, it didn't work. And I think that's because there wasn't enough time for it to say game over before it stopped. So we're going to go ahead and go to control. We'll add the 1 second, and we'll go ahead and try again. 3, 2, 1, game over, and then it stops. Okay? So now we have a timer, and we have it counting down. I could go ahead and change this back to 15. And now let's go ahead and add a scoring system. Okay, so every time our little rover moves over a diamond or these gems, we want it to add to a little score. So just like we have a timer variable here, let's go ahead and create a score variable. So I'm going to type in score. All right, and you see I have one popped up there. And now, again, whenever the rover is passing over the gem, we want it to tick up the score. So let's go back to this. When the game starts, until the program ends, so we'll use the forever script. If, and I'm going to go ahead and have, let's do sensing. If the rover is touching, so this is if the rover is touching a crystal, right? Or actually, it might be better to do it with each crystal instead of with the rover. I mean, it's really up to you. So if the rover is touching this crystal, right, then let's see, we want to change the score by 1, right? So we have it set for just this crystal. Let's go ahead and see what happens. So I run my program. I'm going to move up, and oh yeah, see, the score went up by 1. Okay, so let's stop. If you wanted to, we could just duplicate this here and change that to 2. Duplicate this here and change that to 3. So now let's go ahead and try our program again. Oop, let's try it while not hovering over the gem. So now there's 1, 2. Oh, but as you can see, the score didn't go back down when I stopped and started over. It stayed the same. So that means we have to indicate that the score starts at 0, right? So let's go use this. We'll do the forever script, and then we'll do set my variable. We'll do the score to 0, right? So now when I run program, it goes back down to 0. And then, oh, actually, so as you can see, since we did the forever script, it's forever setting it to 0, and we don't want that. We just want it to be set to 0 when we first clicked it. So let's go ahead and delete that. So you always want to test your scripts to make sure you didn't mess up. And so now, as you can see, it's at 0, and now I go over each one, it's going up. And then let's see, so then let's go ahead and click that. So now they're all back. So that's how we do our scoring system. And you don't have to have the crystal disappear, right? You can have it change, maybe change colors or something. I think there's a change color, change size, so you can have it kind of shrink down, maybe change color, pixelate. So there's a couple different options that you guys can play with when the rover hovers or touches the gem. So this game so far has a target. It's kind of easy to get to the target, so let's go ahead and add some hazards. Okay, so in a game there's usually some obstacles that get in the way, and how we add hazards is we're going to add them directly to the map using by painting the background. Okay, so I'm going to click backdrop, and then if you see it, when I click the backdrop, it gives me this option. I have this page here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color to maybe green, or maybe red is better. I'll have it change to red, and I'm going to create lines. You can either use like a paintbrush to make lines, or a draw line like this. And so basically what I'm going to do is put some dots where these little craters are, because the rover will have difficulty traversing craters in real life. So I'm going to just kind of dot these little craters. I'm going to use this to kind of fill it in, and then maybe I'll draw a line around this little canyon here. And you can kind of see that this is kind of preventing, this will eventually prevent the rover from going over the line. So when you place your hazards, try to keep in mind that you want you don't want to prevent the rover, you don't want to make it too hard, right? You want to just make sure the rover can still move. And if we look on our map over here, you can see that this diamond is very close to this red spot, so I'm just going to move that there. Okay. Alright, so once you kind of have a little a couple of different hazards set, we're now going to code the rover that when it we're going to go back to the code tab here. We want to code the rover that whenever it touches this red color, it's going to create like a disturbance, right? So let's go to event. We'll go to the flag, and then we'll go to control. We'll indicate as whenever the program is running, and then we're going to do an if then. Okay, so if the rover, let's do sensing. If the rover is touching, oh, can we do, here we go, touching color, right? So let's indicate the color we want. I'm going to kind of, I basically just touch this eyedropper, and then I'm going to make sure I hover over the red color there. So if the rover is touching the red color, then we can maybe have it end game, or maybe we can have the rover wait before it can move again. So when the rover is touching the red color, then I'm gonna have it like end the game. So I'm gonna be like, oh, you lost, you don't want to touch the hazard. Okay, so it basically, I'm just gonna have it stop. And maybe what I can also do is similar to when we did over here, game over. In fact, I can copy this. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. And oops, there we go. Oh, there's just a little thing. There we go. And I'll put this back in here. So when you touch the color, we'll have it say, instead of game over, maybe we'll have it say hazard. So let's try that. So I'm going to run the program, and I'm going to drive over this red. Oh, it says hazard, and now I can't move. Okay, and it stops the clock too. And so then we'd have to start over again. Okay. Oh, but as you can see, every time we start now, we're stuck on the hazard, and we won't be able to move. So if you need to move your sprite, you can just click and drag to start them. But instead of having to do that for the game, we want every time we click go for the sprite to start in a position. So let's say we want it to start in the middle here every single time, instead of we can kind of code a landing code. So every time we start the program, the lander will land in the middle. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started coding that. So when the flag is clicked, and then I'm going to go to motion because we want to indicate where the rover is going to start. So when the flag is clicked, the rover is going to start. We're going to have it go to, and then if you can see here, already there's some coordinates in there. But you can always click on the sprite here to see where the coordinates. So currently it's at x15 and y0. So it's on the, we can also actually move this to 0, 0. So we have it start really directly in the middle. Start it at 0, 0. So if you remember your graph, we have the x-axis and the y-axis. Then you can start at 0, 0, and that's the direct middle. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's move him over and we'll test it. So when I click go, you see he moved over to the center, and now I can play the game, trying to avoid the hazards and trying to get all the diamonds before time's up. Okay, so there I got all the timers, and I won the game. That's sort of the basics of how to do this. Make this little rover game. There's a couple other things you could mess around with, get creative, try to change the terrain maybe, or you can mess around with the other scripts to kind of create your own game. But these were just a couple ideas of how to make your rover game. So go ahead and explore all your options on the Scratch programming language, and we'd be interested to see what you come up with. So after you create your game, what you can do is we can go to see, you can title your game here. So we can title this Mars Rover Expedition maybe, or maybe you can name your own expedition. And then I'm going to go ahead and see project page. So that's how you can create your game. Here I have sort of the game overview. You can kind of type in instructions here. Collect all the gems to win. Collect all the gems before the timer ends to win. Okay, and then we even play our program here. So I can full screen this, sort of, and we can go ahead and click and try to win the game. Okay, so boop. Maybe, and depending on how hard you feel your game is, you can maybe shorten your timer or add more targets. It's really up to you. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you guys experimenting with the Scratch program. This is definitely a resource to help you learn to code that I think everyone should take advantage of. So let us know if you were able to create your own game and share it with us so that we can check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.